Iran's greatest aim is to destroy the West, beginning with annihilating Israel. That is all they live for. They don't live to make a good Iran. They couldn't care less if their people suffer. They slaughtered 40,000 of them, peaceful demonstrators, and they just machine gunned them 40,000. Some of them were still living when they were put in body bags and buried alive. These are monsters. And I've come to realize that people in the West are so naive. It's been my long time belief that people on the left do not hate evil. They hate people who hate evil. And now we're seeing that right now. Whether it's Hamas, they don't hate Hamas. They hate Israel for fighting Hamas. And they didn't hate communism. They hated anti-communists. And we're seeing it again. Lindsey Graham is a loss.
You mentioned that there are these bizarre conspiracy theories on X and all over social media that Lindsey Graham was murdered. I want us to spend a minute talking about conspiracy theories because there seems to be this addiction where podcasters and social media influencers, they feel like they have to be the first to announce that they've discovered some sort of conspiracy theory, right? Immediately they take to X, immediately they make something up. Of course, there's never a consequence for diverting people's attention from what is true. There's never a consequence for spreading conspiracy theories, except society suffers a grave consequence when we're constantly living in this chaotic conspiracy theory land.
Look, there are sometimes conspiracies, but generally speaking, what you see is what you get. Charlie Kirk, he was murdered by Tyler Robinson. The evidence is overwhelming. I don't know why the judge postponed till September a decision on whether or not it could even go to trial. And yet Candace Owens said that the Israelis blew up his microphone. I mean, and there are people who believe that. It's not a good trend. What the conspiracy theorists do is they don't allow for tragedy. There are no tragedies. There's only conspiracy.
Let's talk a little bit about Iran and Turkey, going to the Middle East. President Trump, I think, was right with his first instinct about the Iranians. I know that there are people within the administration that were thinking that an MOU or a business deal with the Iranians would actually bear fruit. Looks like Secretary Rubio was correct this entire time. You can't really negotiate with the Iranians. They're terrorists. They don't really approach deals like business deals. What is your way of interpreting this entire exchange of an MOU with the Iranians and now the Iranians proving out to be what many who actually have experience in the Middle East realized would probably happen?
What I've come to realize in the course of my lifetime is that a great segment of people living in a decent culture, namely Western civilization, do not understand evil. They think that everybody is sort of like them. I'll never forget when I came home when I was 21 years old. I came home from 4 weeks in the Soviet Union. And I went around speaking, and I spoke at a church about the Soviet Union. And a woman stood up and said she was a member of a Soviet American women's group, and they're just like us. They're just like us. That is such a common phrase among naive Westerners. They're just like us. But they're not just like us. That's the point. They live in a different value sphere. Iran's greatest aim is to destroy the West, beginning with annihilating Israel. That is all they live for. They don't live to make a good Iran. They couldn't care less if their people suffer. They slaughtered 40,000 of them, peaceful demonstrators, and they just machine gunned them 40,000. Some of them were still living when they were put in body bags and buried alive. These are monsters. And I've come to realize that people in the West are so naive. And, going back, the visiting of Hitler, oh, peace in our time, the British Prime Minister, oh, Hitler wants what we want. He just wants things that are good for the Germans. No, he didn't. He lived to destroy other civilizations, beginning as usual with the Jews. This is a very big problem that people do not understand evil. It's huge. And that could bring the downfall of Western civilization. You can't make an MOU with the Iranian leaders. They laugh at the idea. It's just a delaying tactic.
Dennis, do you think the attempt for an MOU, an agreement with the Iranian, was something that was worth trying, or do you think it's naive and shows lack of experience? Do you think we lost time and momentum by pushing for an MOU right after the bombings, or is it just part of what needed to happen in order for people to wake up?
Both of your answers are possible. I don't know. Yeah, we lost time, but I don't. What it did was cause the first degree of friction between Netanyahu and the president. That was the downside of it, because Netanyahu understands evil. Virtually every Israeli does. Not every Israeli. There are many naive Israelis too, although not anymore. Not after October 7th. This is a huge, huge problem to think we're all the same. I hear that stupid idea all the time. Well, they love their children and we love our children. Well, Nazis love their children. Communists love their children. What does that prove? Nothing. Nothing. Elephants love their children. What does that prove? It's an instinct, not a value system.
Well, sadly, those who are running Iran right now hate the West more than they love their children. I think they've proven that with their behaviors.
That's correct. That is exactly right.
What are your thoughts about
Yeah.
President Trump meeting with folks in Turkey and possibly selling them an F-35? Do you trust Erdogan?
This is a very important point. There's naivete with regard to Erdogan. Erdogan is is an Islamist. Okay? He's not Western. Turkey got into NATO when it was a secular Western democracy, as from 1922, when Ataturk utterly changed the country, and he wanted people to be a Western democracy, and he did it. And then ultimately, Erdogan came to office, and he wants to reinstate the Ottoman Empire. It's Armenians should be demonstrating in the streets. They didn't fare very well under the Ottoman Empire. I'm not sure any non-Muslims did. And that's what Erdogan stands for. But the president likes him, and he goes very much on his instincts, whether he likes somebody. I'm sure Erdogan charmed him, but giving him or selling him 35s, that's a big deal.
Well, Dennis, I want to talk to you about the teachers' unions. Their last two resolutions, whether the NEA, the National Educators Association, which has 3 million teacher members, and the AFT, which is another one of the largest teachers' unions in America. Both of them are going after President Trump. The NEA just voted in their agenda to spend $5.2 million on impeaching President Trump. The AFD just resolved that they want to advocate for a 50% in military spending reduction. They want to weaken our military. Why would the teachers' unions want to weaken America's military? It just sounds bonkers.
Why would anybody on the left want to? That's what they stand for. I don't know what makes them tick. that they don't understand that there's a good versus evil issue here. So what they do is they paint America as evil. Oh, what are you talking about? The adversaries are evil. That's why Tucker Carlson tells you how wonderful the Moscow subways are and how safe he felt in Moscow as opposed to certain American cities. What they're doing is they're minimizing the evil of evil and maximizing the depiction of evil among the good, namely America. It's a very, very bad thing. And that's why we need moral clarity